Today's gonna be a good day. Wake up. Today's gonna be a good day. Wake up. Today's gonna be a
All
good
right,
day.
we have battles everywhere in the Australian Ice Hockey League. After week 14, we have a top six that is shuffling around every single weekend. We have movements within that top six. We have a goal scoring race. We have a shutout from a goaltender as well on week 14, bringing up a big win. We have everything happening in the Australian Ice Hockey League. Welcome to the morning hockey shot. It is 9 a.m., July 26th edition. Thank you for joining me. I'm Andrew McDougall. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Instagram is working back-to-back weeks, which is awesome. After they had some troubles with StreamYard and Meta. Give us a like and a subscribe. As I always say, it helps the algorithm, helps us grow. Leave a comment, share it around, give us a rate and review. We have a big show coming up today on the morning hockey shot. As I mentioned during the week, we do have a big guest. We'll look at the Rhinos, have a bit of a chat about the Rhinos season. But week 14 is gone. Week 15 is coming up, and it's getting spicy. The Australian Ice Hockey League is really getting down to that pointy end of the season that I've spoken about all week. We're inching closer and closer to finals. We've got big crowds still. We've got plenty happening within that top six, as I mentioned off the top. If I have a look at the menu for today's show, we do have Sera Doğramaci coming on. I did pre-record with Sera. So Sera is a soccer mum on a Saturday morning. So Thursday night we sat down and had a pre-recording, which I'll play a little bit later on. And then you can drop your live comments in or drop some comments in about the Central Coast Rhinos when I talk to Sera a little bit later on when I upload the video. And Sera actually did say to me that she will come on and reply to comments later on once she has finished doing the soccer mum stuff out there with her kids. So if you've got comments after the Sera Central Coast Rhinos video is done, you can leave some comments and they will get replied to from Sera a little bit later on today. Brave 8 straight. So the Canberra Brave, they are absolutely flying right now, the Canberra Brave. They played the Melbourne Ice on home ice at AIHL Arena last weekend, and they gave them their first regulation loss of the season, not just one, but two. And the Canberra Brave have now won 8 in a row, and they look really, really good. They're playing electric hockey, the Canberra Brave. And what I like about the Canberra Brave as well is not only are they they've got skilled forwards that can put the puck in the back of the net. They play with an edge too, which is what I really like about the Brave. And when you hear them talk and you see Canberra Brave players out in the media, especially during the week, Matt Clark was on with Oz Hockey Media, the crew over there. You get a really good insight into how close the Canberra Brave are as a unit, as a team. And you can definitely see that out on the ice. 8 straight now. And giving the Melbourne Ice their first 2 regulation losses of the season. For the Melbourne Ice, I don't think it means a whole great deal, to be honest. They've got players that didn't travel to AIHL Arena. They've got some injuries as well, which they will be crossing their fingers actually return prior to the finals. I'm guessing they will be. I don't know the information about injuries, etc., from the Melbourne Ice, but I don't think it's panic stations at all for the Melbourne Ice after week 14 and getting back-to-back losses against the Canberra Brave up at AIHL Arena. But it was a great performance from the Canberra Brave. Kale Costa picked up hat-trick number 1 for the season, a terrific performance. And I'm really impressed as well with the Canberra Brave, sort of much like the Brisbane Lightning that we spoke about last weekend with Lachlan Eels. The Canberra Brave, they do split their goaltender situation. So Tetro and Hasselman really share the duties there. And it seems to be working out quite well. When I was in Canberra the weekend before for the Mustangs doubleheader weekend, there were some outstanding goaltender performances from both of those goaltenders for the Brave, some big saves. So they've got 2 rock-solid goaltenders backstopping their defence there at the Canberra Brave, and they're absolutely flying. They have won 8 in a row, and they have rocketed up the Australian Ice Hockey League standings as well, which we'll have a look at the standings later on. The Brave are now sitting in 3rd position, 37 points. So they are making their move, the Canberra Brave. So if you've got a comment about the Canberra Brave, drop it in the chat. Let me know what you think of the Canberra Brave. I know we do have some Brave supporters that jump onto this live show every single weekend. The top 6, is it settled? I'd like to know anyone's thoughts in the comments. If you think the top 6 is settled, drop a comment in the chat. When I look at the top 6 and I look at the Adelaide Adrenaline, who are the only ones that are going to, there's a slight little flicker of hope still with the Adelaide Adrenaline. You never know what can happen in sport. It's a long way back, but they could still sneak in potentially if things go their way and they get on an absolute heater. But I think the top 6 is settled. I don't think any other teams are actually going to jump into that top 6 now. It was a big win from the Melbourne Mustangs on Sunday, a late winner from Brody Lindell as well. So they've really sort of cemented their position, I think, in the top 6 now, the Melbourne Mustangs. I can't see the Adrenaline. As much as I wanted the Adrenaline to jump in, I can't see them doing it now. They do have 3 games in hand on the Mustangs, but they've only won 5 games this season, the Adelaide Adrenaline. So they'd have to go on a real heater for the rest of the season, and they'd need the Mustangs to absolutely fall off a cliff as well if they're going to actually sneak in unexpectedly, I suppose, at this time of the year. But it was a massive win for the Melbourne Mustangs, who were on a 5-game skid, and Brody Lindell come up absolutely massive. And I do have the Brody Lindell goal, which we can have a look at. But it was a massive win for the Melbourne Mustangs, and it was a much-needed one. They lost a Saturday game and what they would, I suppose, regard as a poor performance as well. So to pick up that win was absolutely massive, with strong travelling support as well. You've seen plenty of Mustangs in the stands behind the goals, especially where Lindell scored it. And it was a great goal from Brody Lindell as well. So it was really, really impressive. Impressive goal from Lindell, and the 19-year-old is absolutely a star of the future, if not a star now. We've got Sky Eastham in the chat, still in hope for Adelaide to make top 6. I think a lot of us are, Sky. I think a lot of people want to see some different teams make it into the top 6 or into the finals, just to shake it up a little bit and sort of not the same old teams in there every season. And the Adelaide Adrenaline are definitely one of those teams. As I said, they've got 3 games in hand, 17 points, and the Mustangs are on 31 points. It's not impossible, but it is a steep hill to climb for the Adelaide Adrenaline if they have any hope of returning to the finals and getting into that top 6 now. They really needed to sweep the weekend against the Mustangs, and they just couldn't get it done. And the late winner from Brody Lindell, it was a really, really good goal.
Corner, 20 seconds to go. Looks like Mustangs are going to take a point unless a miracle.
You see here, Lindell will collect it, and a nice toe drag, and then a beautiful release. And a really, really good goal from Brody Lindell. 11 seconds to go. Step it up on the big stage.
It's a last second,
putting a dagger in the hearts of the Adelaide Adrenaline. And you can tell what it means for the Adrenaline as well. If you look at the goal from Lindell, after he scores it, as you can see here, Joey McDougall just head down on the goal there. And that's how much it means to the Adelaide Adrenaline as well to get into the finals. And they know that they needed to really sweep the weekend, and they knew how vital that result against the Mustangs really was. So a lot of emotion there from Joey McDougall, which is good to see. It just shows that it really does. It does mean a lot to the players. And when they go out there, they absolutely want to win, and it means a lot to them. And they want to make the finals. They want to get the Adrenaline back into that finals picture for the first time in a long, long time. But I'm not sure if it's possible now. I really don't think so, unless they go on that massive heater, as I mentioned. Across the weekend as well, we did have an awesome goaltending performance. As you can see, the point number 4 there, Too Smart. So Charlie Smart picked up a shutout for the Newcastle North Stars. And when people have tuned into this show, or they've been on my website and they've read my weekly articles or my features or my thoughts on teams, I have written about the Newcastle North Stars before. And I'm big on the North Stars. I really, really do believe that they have a really, really solid squad. And they have a squad that I believe can do some real damage in finals. I really do believe that across all lines and across their defensive pairings. But when I look at the North Stars, and obviously they've got Evgeny Sachkov, who takes all the the headlines, I suppose, and with good reason, a former NHL draft pick and a highly talented hockey player, and very exciting to watch as well. But across the weekend, we did have Charlie Smart, and it's a great photo here from Jamison O'Malley of Charlie Smart in net, picking up the shutout for the Newcastle North Stars. And when I was thinking about the Newcastle North Stars, and I was thinking about their finals aspirations and how far and how deep they can go, and after watching this shutout from Charlie Smart, the 4-0 win for the Newcastle North Stars, I did think to myself that Charlie Smart is probably the most important player for the Newcastle North Stars. Their number one goaltender can perform at a really high level, and we've seen that across Charlie's career. Very talented goaltender. And when I looked at the result across the weekend and the 4-0 result, I thought if Charlie Smart can capture that and start playing at a plus 900, save percentage heading into finals, that really, really puts Newcastle North Stars in a really, really strong position to make a deep run. And I really think they can make a deep run. They've won 4 in a row now. They look really strong. They're down in Melbourne this weekend to face the Mustangs and the Melbourne Ice in back-to-back games. So that's a big, big test as well for the North Stars this weekend. But they do have a squad that can go deep, and I do believe that they can win the Goodall Cup. That's how big I am on the North Stars. Drop a comment in the chat. Let me know what you think. Do you think the North Stars can make a deep run into the finals? Do you think the top 6 is settled? And let me know about the Brave. They've won 8 in a row now, the Brave, and they're looking really strong. But I do believe that the Newcastle North Stars, they can definitely make a deep run. And I actually believe that they can win the Goodall Cup this year. I think they've got a really strong squad. Obviously, picking up some players from the Sydney teams has helped, but they always are in and around the finals, the Newcastle North Stars, and they've got the ability to attract class imports, which they have done again this season in their lineup, highlighted by Evgeny Sachkov, who is absolutely amazing to watch for the Newcastle North Stars. Got a comment here from Steve Moller. Charlie is underrated. A fantastic goaltender. I'm a really, really big fan of Charlie Smart, Steve. I totally agree. I think that he definitely is the most important goaltender, the most important piece, for the Newcastle North Stars, and obviously being their number one. If Charlie could find that consistency in his game at the back half of the season and put up some big numbers in save percentage and goals against, and really give the Newcastle North Stars the opportunity when it comes finals time, I really think they can do some damage. So I totally agree. I think Charlie is a fantastic goaltender. I really, really rate Charlie Smart a lot. So we will see what happens with the Newcastle North Stars as they head into finals, and see if Charlie can continue that form and give the North Stars every opportunity to win the Goodall Cup and make a deep finals run. As I did say off the top, I do have a interview with Sera Doğramaci. It was pre-recorded on Thursday night because Sera is obviously busy with family and commitments on a Saturday morning, which I totally understand. And if you've got any comments, as I said at the top, Sera will jump back into the live show later on today and answer some comments or questions that you have about the Central Coast Rhinos or anything else, goaltending, anything like that. You can drop a comment and Sera will come back and answer those for everyone. I will upload the video now. It's roughly about 20 minutes, I think. So awesome chat from an awesome person, someone who is an ice hockey icon here in Australia, and just an all-around awesome person. This is Sera Doğramaci. Doğramaci, welcome to Morning Hockey Shot.
Thank you for having me, Andrew McDougall.
It's good to have you on. It's good to have a chat about some hockey. It feels like forever since I've spoken to you. How is the season? First off, before I get into the Rhinos, how's the season been commentating the Rhinos games?
Oh, it's fun. It's fun. It's always fun. I mean, because I was doing the Bears home games, and obviously there's no Bears this year, but this all worked out because my family and I, we moved up to the Central Coast in January this year. So yeah, it kind of worked in my favor. And I've known Ben forever. So it wasn't like going into, you know, like trying to figure out who he is or anything like that. I've known him for so long anyway. So it was like everything just lined up. So it's been great. It's been fun.
It's been a struggle again for the Rhinos. Do you find it difficult to get motivated for a commentary game every week or every home game?
Never find it hard to get motivated, but I always have a soft spot for them. So I've had a connection to the Central Coast for a while. Many years ago, I was playing for their team that was in the East Coast Super League. And so that's where I formed a lot of friendships. So even now there are guys on this team that I'm friends with. So for me, I just we try to remove all the bias when we commentate, but sometimes I let things slip because they're my friends and I really want them to do well, or Obi gets scored, I'm like, oh, or, you know, if someone misses a shot and I'm like, oh, come on, just put it in the back of the net. So it's not a motivation thing. I just maybe get a bit emotional on behalf of my friends.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think it's because we're so connected, everyone within hockey, you do feel that even if you're doing a role like commentary, I think you feel that connection still. I was thinking about the Rhinos, and before I hit record to record this with you, and I was thinking about their season and the previous seasons. And then I thought to myself, I'm probably not surprised at some of their results in their seasons. How do you feel about the Rhinos? Because I thought this because I think people probably think the Rhinos have sort of been around forever, but it's only into their third season since returning to the AI. Do you still feel like they're sort of catching up a little bit to the established clubs?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that goes into it, right? And some stuff is, well, I guess public and it's okay to talk about. And then there's some stuff that we're just not even going to go there. And I don't know enough that I'm not even going to touch it. So I'm backing away from all that. But I think there are people, okay, for example, so one of my best friends is DJ Jeremy. And so the initial Rhinos for him, he was too young to play. He was just a kid starting out in hockey. And for him, it was like, oh, I want to be a Rhino one day. But then there was no team for him to play on. So he was doing other stuff. And then East Coast and playing for North Stars, AI and all this kind of stuff. And then the Rhinos came back. He's like, oh, I can fulfill that dream. So you've got some people that have kind of had that want to do it. And then the timing's kind of been right or whatever. There's people that have not known what the original Rhinos is and what the club means and the organization and how things operate and all that. So I think whilst they're doing better every year, certainly in terms of statistics, I think there's still a lot of just figuring things out as well, which something like that, it's going to take time.
Yeah, I think so as well. When I look at the club as well, I feel like the rebrand as well, I think was really well done to sort of modernize the club as well into their new era, into the AI. And then I look at the club and I see people like Bert Malloy and Ron Kaprowski as well. And I feel like they're in good hands. Do you feel like they are in good hands and to move up the standings eventually?
I think so. But I think, again, there's a lot that goes into it, right? Ron's been around for a while, so he knows how hockey works. But I think that, I guess, traditionally, because you've had Newcastle at one end and then Bears and Dogs at the other end, and you had no Rhinos, so volunteers and other stuff, they went to those clubs to help out, even if, I don't know, maybe they were from the coast, maybe they weren't, but they kind of got themselves established in those clubs. So I don't think Rhinos has enough support. So I think they could always do with a few more people just helping out and doing different roles rather than people trying to do multiple roles. But I also think that there's veterans on the team that know how things operate and they're doing their best. But they're not going to be around forever, which is possibly why there's so many of the local young kids involved. But then the flip side to that is majority of those local young kids are from Sydney. So then, the Kuleshov brothers, right? And then Gustav Remler Jensen, and then Logan Brody, all those kids, Hayden Sayers as well. So once Dogs and Bears are back, Rhinos may not have those guys, and then it's like, okay, now what? So they're not in a great position, but I think above all they need the front office staff. They need more help. I think on the bench they definitely need more help there, like in terms of just people they're helping, and then just figuring out what the future is going to look like.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the juniors or the younger kids on the Central Coast, and how many of them are there? And I know that obviously you're a goaltender as well, and we've seen Riley White earlier in the season get some opportunities alongside Oberoi. Is there how much of the young talent is there to come through and make an impact?
Not enough, unfortunately. So even if you look at the Stingrays club, so the local club for New South Wales, based on the Central Coast, we've got a 11U team right now. We've got a 13U team right now, and anyone that falls under the 15s or the 17s are playing up in Newcastle. So that's kind of got a combined team. So there's not even enough to field our own club team, which means there's not going to be enough filtering through to the Rhinos, which is why they're trying to get whatever they can from Sydney, make the most of it.
Do you think the Rhinos are starting to settle into the community as well? Because I was when I looked onto the stream, because I don't know if it was at the start of the season or it happened midway through the season, I noticed behind the goals where the entrance is, there looked like there was like a grandstand. So that they're trying to do different things, I suppose, to bring more people in or engage the community. Are the Rhinos starting to get that, or have they always had that community engagement?
I think it's getting better, right? So, and I think being in a shopping center certainly helps. Because they can, just reach just the general community better and give out free tickets and merch, like all that kind of stuff. But then, on a weekend when you see the spectators lining up out the door for entry, and then there's just other people walking by, I mean, there's going to be questions like, oh, what's going on? And maybe they'll end up coming in and all that. But I think the community engagement has definitely improved. The VIP stand, there was a figure skating tournament a few weeks ago, and instead of tearing it down, they're like, well, let's just shift it over here. So I think that's great from the rink management side of things that they did that. But also because we're a small community, there's people with multiple roles. So there's people on the Rhinos who are also directly involved with the Stingrays Hockey Club. So the 11U's team, my son plays on that, so I coach. Bert's son plays on that, so he coaches. So it's great when I get to coach. But we've also got Patty Ward and Fridge as part of our crew as well. So it's like, it's perhaps the most overqualified coaching staff for 11 hockey, but we've got people that know how AIHL works and know how Rhinos works, but are also working at the grassroots level as well.
Yeah. Shifting to the season, the 2025 season, I was excited when the season started. I actually thought the Rhinos would take a little bit of a step this season, just because of, I suppose, the Sydney teams not being in the competition. I thought maybe that's going to strengthen them a little bit with the Kuleshov brothers, etc. When I look at the Rhinos, I look at the competition, I look at the top six, and most of the teams in the top six are 100 goals plus this season. And I see the statistic with the Rhinos with 71 goals, and I think to myself, they're just not scoring enough. Where do you see? Where have you seen the Rhinos sort of season go wrong from your vantage point as a commentator?
I don't want to say anything that is not correct, but I think when you look at the start of the season, you can't predict the whole season based on the first few weeks. When you've got guys that go to Worlds and the imports aren't here yet because they haven't finished their season wherever, and a bunch of the kids that are still finishing their college hockey or wherever it is. So it's not really until kind of May, June where it's like, okay, we've all got our full rosters now. I think the unfortunate thing is that when people are looking to come to Australia and play, or looking to switch clubs, and if they're looking at past history of other teams, I guess there's two thoughts to it. It might be, why would I want to go on a team where I'm possibly not going to win anything, or have the support I need to play the way I want to? Or do I want to go and be a superstar on a team that needs help? So I think for the Rhinos, they've pulled a great squad together, but we've also seen how things have kind of depleted along the way too. So unfortunately, none of the leaders that actually have a letter are playing the rest of the season. And that's not a good thing. So, you've got Captain Bert Malloy, season-ending injury, which is super unfortunate. Then you got Tyler Kabara, who came onto the team this year, alternate captain, also season-ending injury. And then David James Jeremy, personal reasons and all sorts of stuff that he's taken a step back from it as well. But then you got other people that are like in and out, and you've got a roster that's so long that esports desk can't handle it, which we had issues with that on the weekend. So I think just circumstances have not been ideal for them.
Yeah. How much is someone like, you're just talking about players that if they're going to go to a team, would they go to the Rhinos? One player who is an absolutely massive fan favorite, I'm guessing club favorite, and someone that you know well, Anand Oberoi. And every time I see the Rhinos play, I always look at the shots against, and I'm blown away about how many shots that Oberoi faces on a weekly basis and does a fantastic job. I'm guessing he likes the Central Coast area, likes the Rhinos because hasn't left yet. How important is that for the club to have someone like Anand who is happy to stay and is an absolutely outstanding goaltender?
I think, this kind of relates back to what's the goalie depth coming through. That's the first one. So every team needs a good goalie. That's where it all starts. So when you're picking your team, you need a great goalie. So I'm so glad that Anand came last year and that he loved it so much that he decided to stick around, and hopefully we'll just keep him longer. I mean, it's happened to so many imports before. Like, Bert came out here for a different hockey experience, different competition, and then he went and captained Australia. So I think to have someone like Oberoi, but also with his experience that he brings in, and then helping out the younger goalies that come to practice as well, giving back to the community. He comes to the Stingrays club practices and works with our goalies as well. I think it's huge to have just a role model like that, but also just hardest working goalie of the league. Like we saw, he's faced well over 2,000 shots, and that's in this 2 years, and that's the ones that actually just hit the net. So he's working a whole lot more than just 2,000 shots as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's important to have someone like Oberoi as the backstop with that experience in the Rhinos lineup for where they're heading, I suppose, where they are now and where they want to get to. I think Oberoi can really play that important role. There was a good article by Tristan Metcalf on Oz Hockey Media during the week just about imports and goals for imports in their teams. And when he brought up his stats with that article, the Rhinos are really low down on percentage from goals by imports. And I always look at a league like the AI, which is pretty import heavy and very heavy reliant on import scoring. Can you pinpoint where maybe that's sort of gone wrong, or where the Rhinos have sort of struggled, or how the imports haven't had that impact like they probably thought they would?
I think, again, it's just a combination of things. So you want to have strong goaltending and strong defense. And we can see because of, the amount of shots that Anand has faced. If we didn't have those imports, I don't know how many shots he would be facing per game. But also, again, because of the injuries sustained and just all these things that are happening to the Rhinos, I think some of the players up front don't necessarily have players that they're used to working with, if that makes sense. So if you've got like an import that's played a certain way and you bring another import in, but they've kind of been exposed to the same hockey, then they're going to work together and generate lots of scoring chances. So, this is why the Kuleshov brothers are great, because they're brothers. That's why they work so well on the same line together. But then if you bring someone else in, then there's still that kind of figuring it out. And I mean, even on the weekend, the lines looked like they changed up just from where we were in the commentary. Just looking at the lines and seeing how they were rotating and who's stepping in where. It's like they're even changing it during the game.
Yeah. I'm guessing that the Sydney players are going to return to their clubs when the Sydney teams come back next season. I'm guessing now, I suppose, I'd love your take as well of how important the next batch of imports for 2026 are for the Rhinos. I feel like they have to really get that correct in 2026. Yeah,
I mean, I think everyone's just made that assumption that all the Sydney players are going to go back. Whether they were imports or they're counted as locals, I think it's safe to assume that they're going to go back. But that's kind of, Newcastle as well, and Melbourne, like all those guys, as soon as Sydney's back, they're there. I think it's obviously important that they get some strong imports in there, but then everything else around it as well. There's some guys there that are stepping in and out for a game or two, and even in those games, they might be getting like a couple of shifts. So they're not they're young, right? So they've got to do their time. But they may not be getting the exposure that they might need. But also, I don't think with how the games are going, they're necessarily getting those opportunities. So if they didn't have high scoring, goals against, would you then put them in so that, it doesn't matter with 5 minutes to go in a game? Or if you're, it's a tight scoring game, do you risk putting them in and then you're going to lose the game? So I think Roddy's got a lot of hard things to try and figure out. It's an expensive hobby for us. I know some teams look after their players differently, but at the end of the day, all these people have day jobs or they've got school or something. So it's like, well, if I'm going to spend a weekend on the road and I'm only going to get 2 shifts, why do I bother? And if that's not going to change for the following year. So there's much more complicated things than I guess a general fan might just look at. I feel for the Rhinos, a lot of things just didn't go their way this year. And then they'll start games really well, and then somehow it just ends up plummeting. But they're doing better statistically than they did last year, so we got to give them that.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things I was going to mention to you just before I let you go. Because when I watch the Rhinos, you can see some of the play and some of the games, you can see it. So they will have this.
There, right?
It's just not consistently, I suppose, for long enough, but you can see it there. And obviously you're around it a lot more than I am. Do you see the light at the end of the tunnel too? Because I can see it flickering, that light at the end of the tunnel where I feel like the Rhinos will break through.
I think so. If they can keep a core group together and bring young ones into that and show them the way and how things work and what the expectations and all that kind of stuff, if they can just stick it out for a couple of seasons, I think that's when we'll start seeing things finally coming together, or, not go to sleep in the second period or whatever it may be. I think they just need a little bit more time to work together and again, like support on all fronts. So the quality of the imports, the locals coming through, giving them the support, and then staff support, volunteer support, like all of that. It's hard for, some people just to do it on their own or just to juggle multiple jobs while they're involved in the organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. The Rhinos have got 5 games remaining for the Rhinos, though, 4 of them at home. And there's some really gettable games on home ice. Do you have in mind where you think, how many games do you think that they could win in that homes, those 4 home games that they've got to sort of end the season and give their fans, because I've seen video footage, etc., of their fans, and they have a passionate fan base for their team.
They do.
Yeah, and I feel like even out of that 4, I feel like they could at least grab 2 wins out of those 4 home games. I know they've got Canberra and Newcastle, which will be tough, but I really feel like they're gettable games.
I'll just go out and say I would love for them to win all 4. Grab some point. I kind of never have real predictions. It's just kind of seeing where they sit, who they're up against. What does the roster look like? Are there any scratches on the team from either side to kind of, I guess, see that way how it's going to play out. And again, I mean, Rhinos they're just not in an ideal situation right now. So it's just, they just got to ride it out. I mean, they're not obviously going to finals weekend. So it's like, well, make the most of it while you've got it and try to retain as much as you can for next season to want both the players and obviously the fans to keep coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sera, thank you for joining Morning Hockey Shot. This is being recorded on Thursday night though, so it's not actually Saturday morning. You're one of those hockey mum or sports mums.
Soccer mum on Saturday.
So I'll wish you all the best for your Saturday morning with the soccer with the kids. Thank you so much for giving up your time to have a chat about the Rhinos, but also to commentate the season. It's fantastic work that you do for the Rhinos on the stream. So thank you for joining in the Morning Hockey Shot.
No, thank you so much. And thank you for everything that you do for our hockey community. It's always appreciated.
There she goes. That was Sera Doğramaci, the Central Coast Rhinos commentator for Thought Fox Media, and getting a bit of an insight into the Central Coast Rhinos season for 2025. And probably a season that they might have expected a little bit more. And as I said with Sera, I actually looked at the Rhinos squad this season, and with the two Sydney teams not being in the competition, I actually thought that they were going to have a really, really, really strong season, the Rhinos. And unfortunately, they are sitting at the bottom of the Australian Ice Hockey League standings, and it just hasn't gone their way. But I do feel like they are building. They are getting better each season, and I think 2026 will be a big season for the Rhinos, especially on the import front. That's what I do believe, because I think that the Sydney players are heading back to their Sydney clubs. I believe that they will head back to their Sydney clubs, and which makes it more important now for the Rhinos to get their imports correct, I think, for 2026, especially if that local talent is heading back to those Sydney Ice Dogs or Sydney Bears when they return in 2026. But I want to thank Sera Doğramaci for jumping on the Morning Hockey Shot, the pre-recorded episode on Thursday night. As I said before, I hit the play button on the recording. If you have a comment for Sera will jump back into the comments later today after finishing up all the soccer mum stuff that she is doing this morning with her kids, and we'll answer any questions about the Central Coast Rhinos. So if you've got any questions or comments, drop them in the chat, and Sera will jump back in there a little bit later on. And we do have a couple of comments just regarding the Rhinos. One from Steve Moller, which is what Sera touched on as well in the interview, is two big injuries to the Rhinos haven't helped this season. Tyler Kabara and Bert Malloy out is a huge loss. Absolutely massive, Steve, to have Tyler Kabara and Bert Malloy both out of the Central Coast Rhinos team for the rest of the season. And when you think about it as well, and you think about both of those players who are obviously goal scorers and pretty much point per game players for the Rhinos this season. And if they're only playing less than half of the games for the season, it's going to make a massive impact on the Rhinos. Rhinos look for this season and their results and where they want to be on the standings. Absolutely. But more than that as well, for the Rhinos, it's taking away, obviously they'd be around the club still in I suppose at trainings or on game day, they'll be there, but it's the on ice leadership that players like Tyler Kabara and Bert Malloy do provide for the Central Coast Rhinos. And you can't replace that for those two experienced players, national team players, and have been around the sport for a long time and have won good all cups and know what it takes to get there and know what it takes to win. And all those sorts of things, they play a massive role for the Rhinos, or for any club really, but for the Rhinos especially. And Tyler Kabara was a really, really big signing for the Rhinos this season. And to not have Tyler Kabara for the rest of the season for the Rhinos and out with injury is absolutely massive. So that definitely can't be understated. And unfortunately, the Rhinos are without two of their most experienced players in Tyler Kabara and Bert Malloy for the rest of the season, which is a huge loss. Sky Eastham as well. Central Coast is a lovely area for a road trip. Love the Rhino games. I was up there last season and I really did enjoy going to Erina Ice Arena. I did the Newcastle and Central Coast double for the road trip last season. And I actually did feel like that rink really, really packed out. It could have a really good atmosphere in that rink. And they are a passionate fan base. As I said to Sera, you see it when you're there. You see it on the live stream. You see some videos that will pop up in AI fans or fan groups, etc. The Central Coast Rhinos really do have a really passionate fan base as well, which makes the trip even more enjoyable to have those fan bases that are really passionate about their teams, and the Central Coast Rhinos do have that. So hopefully we can see in 2026 the Central Coast Rhinos really pushing for a final spot to extend the season for those passionate fans. It would be wonderful to see. And Steve Muller back in the chat, the leadership loss is huge. Yeah, I think it is. I think that on-ice leadership with Tyler Kabara and Bert Malloy is absolutely massive. And it's something that I suppose maybe some people might overlook and they might not see or hold in sort of high regard, I guess. But in terms of on-ice leadership, not just the points and the goals and the assists and things like that, it's just that leadership on the ice that the Central Coast Rhinos definitely miss with Tyler Kabara and Bert Malloy being out. So I totally agree. Steve, the rest of the show, I'm going to get through it all, I think, which is really cool. The Great Race. I have the Great Race sitting on my menu there at number 5. I wrote about this during the week in my weekly article in the Blue Paint. So we have a great race going on now for the first goal scorer. So the week before we had Tanner Hops hit 50 points for the season. So Tanner Hops hit 50 points for the season for the Brisbane Lightning, the first player to get the 50 points in the Australian Ice Hockey League. Now the great race is on for the first player to hit 30 goals. And there is 2 players that are chasing down that 30 goal mark. And one of them is Colton Schindel for the Melbourne Ice, and the other is Yu Hikasaka. Colton Schindel currently sits on 28 and Yu Hikasaka sits on 27. And I wonder who's going to hit the 30 goal mark first. And the easy answer, I suppose, is the Melbourne Ice's Colton Schindel, because the Melbourne Ice will play this weekend and the Perth Thunder don't have a game. So it is against the Newcastle North Stars tomorrow. The Melbourne Ice will play the Newcastle North Stars, and that won't be easy. So it's not guaranteed that Schindel will pick up a couple of goals there and hit that 30 goal mark. But I would love to know what people think about the great race, the first to 30 goals. Who's going to get there first? Colton Schindel has been very, very consistent all season. Played 20 games and scored a goal in 18 of those games, where Yu Hikasaka has just slowed down a little bit. But we know that when Hikasaka is on, it can put big numbers up in terms of goals throughout the game. So I'd be interested to hear anyone's thoughts in the comments of who you think will get to the 30 goal mark this season first. Will it be Colton Schindel? Will it be Yu Hikasaka? Because that's the next great race, I think. With the points leaders, we had Tanner Hops hit 50 points, the first player to do that this season. Now it's the first to 30 goals, and below them is Tyrone Bronte and one other player. I'm trying to think of the other player that is just below them, but they're a fair way away from Yu Hikasaka and Colton Schindel. It is Tanner Hops and Tyrone Bronte. So Tanner Hops will hit the 50 points for the first time. First player to do that this season is Tanner Hops and Tyrone Bronte are both on 20 goals this season. So they're probably, unless Yu Hikasaka and Colton Schindel have a dry period, and Tanner Hops and Tyrone Bronte, who is, I believe, not in the country at the moment, returns and puts him away and goes on a heater. I think it's between those two, Colton Schindel and Yu Hikasaka, for the first players to hit the 30 goal mark. We have a comment from Sky in the chat. Colton has a natural talent, all-rounded player. He reads the puck well. Colton makes watching hockey fun. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I remember at the start of the season, I think I put a comment in a post in the AI fans group on Facebook, and it was about Colton Schindel, because at the start of the season, I was looking at Colton Schindel, and I'm looking at the numbers and the way that Colton Schindel plays and how exciting it was to watch Colton Schindel for the Melbourne Ice. And I'm watching the games, and I'm thinking, I would go to hockey to watch a player like Colton Schindel play. And when I was looking at Schindel play, and I'm watching the points go up, and I know that hockey here in Australia, I suppose, doesn't have the media coverage that other sports have. But when I was watching the points go up, I'm thinking there's not a lot of media coverage about this Colton Schindel, who is playing outstanding hockey. And it's great to watch. And now we're getting close to that 30 goal mark. It just highlights how well Colton Schindel plays for the Melbourne Ice and what a superb hockey player it is, and a hockey player he is. And what a joy it is to have someone like Colton Schindel in the Australian Ice Hockey League. So totally agree, Sky, with your comment about Colton. Absolutely. We do have a comment here from Jared Arps. Bert and Tyler leadership was a loss, but not a total loss. My son came back from playing in Finland for his summer break and was fortunate to train with the Rhinos, and these guys were great in supporting him for this period. Gave them more time talking about options and direction. Great group, the entire team. That's a really great comment, Jared. Thanks for dropping that in the chat. And that is really good to hear about Bert and Tyler and the Central Coast Rhinos and what they're building there. I think that's superb. And it's always great to see players giving back to the local ice hockey community and giving back in that way and helping the next generation and your son. So, yeah, hopefully your son's taking a fair bit out of that, and hopefully your son coming back from Finland had a really good time over in Finland as well. And I suppose, yeah, that's the flip side of it, isn't it? Like we talk about, and I mentioned about the on-ice leadership. It's, yeah, the off-ice leadership as well is something that maybe we forget as well. And obviously, I might have forgotten about that as well and not spoken about the off-ice. Maybe it does give Bert and Tyler a bit more time off-ice to give back and help these next generation of ice hockey players coming through the system. So thank you for dropping that in the chat, Jared. That is a really, really good comment and really, really hits the mark, I suppose, and just goes to show you what these players do and how much of their time they give up and how much they give back for the ice hockey community and the next generation here in Australia, which is great to see. And hopefully the next batch of Rhinos to come through and play in the Australian Ice Hockey League and even the Australian Women's Ice Hockey League. You know, these players like Bert and Tyler and all these other experienced players, they might help Australian Women's Ice Hockey League players as well come through and play in that league as well. So hopefully it's giving back, and the next generation of Central Coast Rhinos players is coming through the system, which is awesome. What do we have left on the menu? Standings, schedule, and pick of the week. So the standings after week 14 of the competition, the Melbourne Ice are still sitting pretty on top, but they do have those two regulations losses, as I said off the top of the show. 55 points. The Thunder in second on 40, played 22 games, one game less in the ice. And then the Brave, who have played 21 games on 37, they're making their move, the Canberra Brave. The Lightning are in fourth on 33 points. The North Stars in fifth on 33 as well. Played one more game than the Lightning, and the Mustangs in sixth place on 31 points with a massive win, as I played the Lindor goal earlier. Against the Adelaide Adrenaline on Sunday, just gone, a massive, massive win. The Adrenaline just outside, they're outside the six on 17 points, and the Central Coast Rhinos on 12 points to round out the standings. As I said off the top, I can't see the standings actually changing all that much, or at all, this season. I think the Adelaide Adrenaline, if they do make a run, I think they've left it too late and they have to go on a massive heater. And the weekend just gone in week 14 was extra important for the Adrenaline to get those back-to-back wins. It's only now the positions in the top six and whether or not how often they will change and where teams will finish, I think, in that top six this season. But the Ice, I don't think they're going anywhere. The Thunder, I think they will start to find really solid form at the back end of the season, the Thunder. But I think the North Stars, are still big on the North Stars. I think they might make a bit of a move to get into that top half of the top 6 by the end of the season. We will see this weekend. They're in Melbourne against the Melbourne Ice and Melbourne Mustangs. And we will have a look at the schedule as well, because the schedule, not a lot of games this weekend. So we've got the Adelaide Adrenaline and the Brisbane Lightning. Massive games for both teams, really. If the Adelaide Adrenaline want to keep their finals chances alive, they've got to get back-to-back wins up in Brisbane against the Lightning. This game, I do believe, is the free game of the week. I did see a post from Oz Hockey Media and Sean O'Connor about this. I think it is the free game of the week on AIHL.tv, so check it out. And it'll be a really good game, I think, between those two teams. 4:45 p.m. puck drop, which is all local time. And the Newcastle North Stars today against the Melbourne Mustangs. 5 p.m. puck drop, and then tomorrow it will be the North Stars against the Melbourne Ice, a 2 p.m. puck drop, and 3:45 p.m. the Adelaide Adrenaline will play against the Brisbane Lightning on their back-to-back, and that is a 3:45 p.m. puck drop, which is all local times. Just let me know what game you're looking to, if you want to drop a comment in the chat. Some interesting games there. Obviously, the Newcastle North Stars will be testing themselves out against the two Melbourne teams. I'm not sure what sort of squad the Melbourne Ice will have for tomorrow. I know they do have a few injuries on their roster. And the Melbourne Mustangs, off that big win and snapping their 5-game losing streak, will be looking to continue that on against the North Stars today. So a couple of big games in Melbourne, and obviously Adelaide and Brisbane. Brisbane want to secure or get as high up the standings as they possibly can. Currently sitting 4th. And the Adelaide Adrenaline, with that little flicker of the flame for their finals chances, will want to get both wins, and they need to get both wins, or else it's all over if it isn't already. So if you've got a game you're looking forward to this weekend, and I will give my pick of the week, I was thinking about this, but I think it is the Adelaide-Brisbane series. They're my games of the week. I think they'll be really good to watch. And because Adelaide need to get back-to-back wins, and they need to get all the points that they can get, they'll be fired up and ready to go. And they had a big win on Saturday last weekend against the Melbourne Mustangs, which might have surprised a lot of people, their result against the Mustangs during week 14. It was a 5-1 win, so it was a really, really strong performance from the Adelaide Adrenaline. They did double the shots on goal against the Melbourne Mustangs in that game. So they'll be looking to continue that form on against the Lightning this weekend. And the Brisbane Lightning, obviously we know, on home ice. They are really good at Boondall, the Brisbane Lightning, and they've got plenty of weapons that they can release and throw at the Adelaide Adrenaline. So it will be 2 interesting games, and they're my picks for the weekend. From week 15, we do have Andrew John Egan in the chat. Get around Adelaide. I think you're not the only one, Andrew. I think there's a lot of people that want to see Adelaide in the finals. It's starting to dwindle down, though. Every single weekend, it gets the chances are getting less and less. So Adelaide need 2 big wins to really, really make things interesting as we head into week 16 the following weekend. Steve Muller as well in the chat. Fingers crossed for Adelaide to pick up a couple of wins with the winking face. Yes, absolutely. As a Canberra Brave person, that's what Steve Muller wants. But I think that'll do it. So that's my pick of the weekend, Adelaide v Brisbane, the 2 games. I hope you enjoyed the interview with Sera Doğramaci, the Central Coast Rhinos color commentator for Thought Fox Media. I hope you found it interesting about the Rhinos. As I said, if you've got any comments, Sera will be jumping back into the comment section later on, and we'll answer any comments that you have about the Rhinos, or anything about goaltending, or anything about junior systems that we sort of touched on. So if you've got comments or questions for Sera, drop them in the chat. Sera will be back in there later on to answer them. If you're heading out to a rink, as I always say, if you're heading out to a rink this weekend, enjoy it, make some noise, make a bit of colour there, get involved. I know Andrew John Egan, who was just in the chat, has some banners that he takes with his daughter to the hockey you might see floating around in the Melbourne ice. And enjoy it. I hope your team gets a win. If you're playing this weekend, I hope you score a goal, or if you're a goaltender, you make a big glove save and your team gets a win as well. We are getting down to the pointy end of the season for the Australian Ice Hockey League, and the top 6 might be settled. Absolutely might be settled after this weekend. You never know. And then we'll just look towards finals, I guess. And the other 2 teams that miss out, they'll have to look towards 2026. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram every Saturday at 9 a.m. I will be back next week with another awesome guest. You can find my work at andrewkmacdougall.com.au. Articles and things like that as well, just about hockey and thoughts and interviews. YouTube, I've got a big video coming, releasing on YouTube in the next couple of weeks. But I think that'll do it. I think that's it for today's show. I want to thank Sera once again for coming on the show and giving her thoughts about the Central Coast Rhinos. It was very much appreciated. Got Sky in the chat. Thanks, AMAC. Thanks, Sky, for jumping in and always being a part of it. Makes my job a little bit easier here, trying to talk into the screen. So if I've got people interacting with me, it's awesome. But I really do hope you're liking the interviews and the way it's set up, and just the different takes that you get from commentators, because they see the game and they're in and around it, which I think is cool. And I'll have another awesome guest next week looking at the Newcastle North Stars. So that's the team I'll be running next week. Also, yes, Steve, Brave also taking on USA tonight. Yes, absolutely. The Ice Hockey Classic is at AIHL Arena, and the Brave taking on USA tonight. If you're there, get around it and go and have a look. And if you're in Canberra, go check out your Brave crew doing the thing against the USA team that Kerry Goulet and the Ice Hockey Classic have put together. But that'll do it. I think that's it for this weekend of the Morning Hockey Shot. I will be back again next week, 9 a.m., Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And as I said, if you're out at a rink or enjoy the day, hope you get a win, and hope you make a save. Bye.
Everybody just do your thing. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.